Adjusting my tie in the mirror, I had a sudden, earth-shattering revelation. This face of mine? It was practically bioengineered for the professional stand-in industry. The left side had a hint of some trust fund scion. The right could pass for a chart-topping pop idol, and even the back of my head bore a striking resemblance to some tech billionaire's long-lost love. Talk about being born for a role. Huh? This was it. Jake Ryan. Eleanor Vance's voice, a digital drill sergeant through my phone. Where are you? Do you have any idea what time it is? You're not at the office yet. I draw back, Ms. Vance, according to Supplementary Clause 38 of our contract. In the days leading up to the return of the one that got away, the stand-in is permitted to appropriately reduce his presence, allowing the employer a buffer period. Cut the crap, she seethed. If you're not here in 10, I'm docking your bonus. All right, Ms. Vance, on my way. Ugh, this was exactly why I hated taking on CEO clients. They never stuck to the contract, and they were ridiculously cheap. When I strode into Vance Tower with the practiced air of a rom-com leading man, the receptionist collectively gasped. Oh my God, he looks just like Ethan Cole. He's even hotter than Ethan, don't you think? I heard he could even play Ethan Cole's distinctive birthmark on his left shoulder. It's a birthmark, not some weird blemish. And you, miss, are fired. Eleanor Vance circled me, then frowned. Your hair's wrong today. I immediately whipped out my little notebook. Ms. Vance, while Mr. Cole's new hairstyle on Instagram last week was indeed a side part, you have to consider today's northwesterly wind. Shut up. She tossed a black Amex at me. Go buy some industrial-strength hairspray and fix it. You're accompanying me to a cocktail party tonight. Image is everything. You got it, boss. 3:17 a.m. My phone vibrated. I opened my eyes. No need for a light. My fingers had already found the phone on the nightstand with pinpoint accuracy. The screen lit up. Eleanor Vance. Paired with a short text. Stomach. I threw off the covers, my bare feet hitting the cold floor. Muscle memory kicked in faster than conscious thought. For 3 years, if Eleanor had a business dinner or a schmoozing event, there was an 80% chance her stomach would act up later that night, usually between 3 and 4 in the morning. My nightstand drawer was perpetually stocked with 3 types of remedies. One was a Japanese brand Ethan Cole used to send her when he was studying abroad. Another was a common over-the-counter pain reliever like Advil. And the third was a custom herbal blend I'd gotten from a traditional naturopath. The door slid open silently. The motion sensor lights in the hallway illuminated one by one, guiding my way. Eleanor was curled up on a master bed, hair disheveled, fingers pressing hard into her stomach. I walked to her bedside, crouched down, and took out the warmed herbal broth from an insulated thermos. Drink this. I offered the ceramic mug, intentionally lowering my voice because Eleanor once said it sounded a bit like Ethan's. She frowned, not taking it. It doesn't taste the same. My expression didn't change. The formula was adjusted. You developed a tolerance to the licorice root in the original prescription last month. She finally looked up at me, a flicker of something distant in her eyes. I knew what she was thinking. Would the real Ethan Cole remember something like this? It was a common affliction for those nursing a flame for an old love. Everything had to be compared to their paragon. Over time, viewed through an ever-rosier filter, the image of this lost love became increasingly perfect in their minds, so perfect that even the actual person couldn't live up to it. Tragic in a way, but I wasn't Ethan Cole. I was Jake Ryan, a stand-in for hire, and remembering a client's physiological data was just part of the job description. She managed a couple of sips, then grabbed my hand. Ethan, back then. Great. Whenever she was vulnerable, the nostalgia and pining for the past would kick in. I let her hold my hand, while my other fished a peppermint from my pocket, unwrapped it, and offered it to her lips. The medicine's bitter, I said with a smile. Have a mint. Her hand trembled slightly. After she'd fallen asleep, I quietly checked the nightstand. Sure enough, deep in the drawer, the box of Japanese medicine Ethan had left behind was 3 months past its expiration date. I secretly checked it every time I was over, and she'd never noticed that I replaced it with a fresh box every 2 months. Stand-in rule number 2, addendum true replacement begins with the details. I closed the drawer. As I turned, my gaze caught the portrait on the wall. Ethan Cole's profile, an oil painting, hung directly opposite the bed. I silently adjusted my stance until my shadow, cast by the dim light, matched his perfectly. A truly high-quality specimen of manhood, indeed. The author swears this line wasn't mine. Some damn fourth-wall breaker added it. Before leaving, I took her empty medicine mug. In the kitchen trash, a half-eaten container of extra-spicy Szechuan takeout lay discarded. I pulled out my phone and sent a message to Eleanor's personal chef. Breakfast tomorrow. Oatmeal with blueberries and chia seeds. Message sent. I glanced at the sticky note on the fridge door. Ethan's return countdown, 7 days. I smirked, changed the 7 to a 6, and closed the refrigerator. My story with Eleanor Vance began 3 years ago. I was minding my own business, working diligently, when I got a call from an agency. They said a high-powered female executive had taken a liking to me, thought I bore a striking resemblance to her long-lost love, and wondered if I'd be interested in being her stand-in. The pay was substantial. My first instinct was to refuse. Did they think I'd skipped all my cybersecurity awareness training? What was next? An email from a Nigerian prince needing help transferring millions. Though if it were a substantial sum for a surrogate father gig, I might have at least heard them out. But when they mentioned $10,000 a month, plus bonuses and all expenses covered, I figured a meeting couldn't hurt. Just looking, right? Besides, the world couldn't be that full of scammers. Otherwise, there wouldn't be enough suckers to go around. The next day, I sat in the quietest corner of a coffee shop. The woman across from me was sizing me up like a prize steer at a county fair. The eyes aren't quite right. Eleanor Vance swiped through photos on her phone, pulling one up. Ethan Cole's eyes have a slightly more pronounced downward tilt at the outer corners. I took a sip of my coffee, subtly adjusting my facial muscles, an expression I practiced dozens of times in front of the mirror using the photos the agency had provided beforehand. How about now? She visibly paused. Excellent. Round 1 to me. Eleanor slid a contract across the table. The figures on it caused a temporary spike in my blood pressure. I pulled a portable printer from my briefcase and, with a whir, printed out a supplementary addendum. Emotional support services, $300 per hour. Mimicking specific smiles, $50 per instance. The sound of the paper emerging was surprisingly loud in the quiet cafe. Well, you certainly come prepared, Eleanor said, a note of resignation in her voice. I smiled. Thank you. This is, after all, a professional stand-in gig. The contract should be standard, don't you think? Eleanor tapped her fingers on the table as she reviewed the addendum. You're quite the professional. I agree to these terms. Business is all about efficiency, I said, handing her back the pen. My services also include 24-hour emergency contact and scenario reenactments. She stared for a long moment before signing. Every Wednesday, wear a beige turtleneck sweater and bring my lunch to the office, she said, standing up. It needs to be in a blue and white plaid insulated bag. I've already sent you a picture. I recognized the outfit from the photo. It was what Ethan Cole wore in the picture of him at the airport, saying goodbye. The insulated bag probably had some sentimental value too, but I wasn't about to ask. Understood. I pulled out my phone to make a note. By the way, will you require me to cosplay as a DoorDash driver and shout, "Your lunch delivery is here"? No extra charge for that. A vein throbbed at Eleanor's temple. She looked at me as if I were a particularly dense brick. Just a joke. I haven't officially started yet, right? I said, a little sheepishly, afraid she'd cancel the contract on the spot. Stand-in rule number 1. Always practice your defenses. That night, I was in front of the mirror practicing Ethan Cole's signature expressions. My phone's photo gallery was filled with candid shots of him that Eleanor had sent. His left side was more photogenic, so when dining with Eleanor, I always had to sit to her right. Stand-in rule number 2. Details determine premium pricing. The Ethan Cole behavioral blueprint needed constant updates. Clears throat lightly before saying goodnight. New habit, added in 2020. Stand-in rule number 3. Always be ready to bill. A sticky note on my bathroom mirror. Smile on demand. $20/instance. Non-intimate physical contact. Hand-holding. Comforting arm $100/instance. Late night emotional meltdown support. 50% upfront. Platonic comfort presence. E.g. sharing a bed for reassurance. No funny business complimentary. But if frequency exceeds reasonable limits per month, surcharges apply. Damn it. Ethan Cole was back early. The man had absolutely no concept of time. What was this? Some kind of surprise attack of joy. Give me a break. At the airport arrivals hall, I was busy calculating my day's earnings on my phone. Basic service fee. $4,000 emotional consultation add-on. $2,000 for listening to Ms. Vance complain about her golden boy for half an hour. Hairstyle maintenance hazard pay. $1,000. That northwesterly wind was brutal. Extra charge justified. Suddenly, the PA system crackled. Flight CA 983 has now arrived. I instantly switched to business mode, plastering on Ethan Cole's signature heartthrob smile. Ms. Vance, would you like me to perform a tearful reunion after a long separation scene? Package deal just 8. Eleanor kicked me sharply in the shin. Go get the car, idiot. Watching Ethan Cole's figure emerge from the arrivals gate, I deftly pulled out my phone to show her my Venmo QR code. Ms. Vance, according to Contract Article 12. 3. Upon the return of the original, the service agreement is automatically termy. I know. She glared at me, already initiating the transfer. You can go. Come by in a few days to settle the final payment. I was gleefully counting the zeros in the transfer confirmation when I heard, wait. Eleanor called me back. Would you consider renewing your contract? I turned back, stunned, to see her expressionless face. Don't misunderstand. I just thought you could stay on as a personal assistant. You're clearly very competent. Apologies, Ms. Vance. Twirls pen with a slight upward tilt of the pinky finger. Adds 5% to gentle G&E says qua. Refined aura score. My next client has already booked me. They want me to play the mysterious bad boy poet who secretly pines for the quirky librarian. Seeing her expression instantly darken, I quickly added, by the way, I highly recommend our VIP membership card. You get a 20% discount on your next stand-in. I'd been too optimistic. My plan to terminate the agreement 3 days early was vetoed by Eleanor Vance. Damn capitalists. That evening, I stood in a corner of the Vance Corporation's annual gala ballroom, holding a champagne flute to look. Profound. Yeah, profound. I had no idea what Eleanor was thinking, insisting I attend this thing even though the contract wasn't technically over. Her excuse was that my name was already on the guest list, and it was too inconvenient to change. I took a sip of champagne. A bit too sweet for my taste, but it was Eleanor's favorite. Ethan, unfortunately for her, only drank brut. I set down the glass and headed for the restrooms. The restroom mirror reflected my face. Carefully styled hair, Ethan Cole's signature slightly curled bangs, even the almost invisible scar on his left eyebrow, meticulously replicated with concealer, about an 8 or 9 out of 10 match. I practiced a few angles in the mirror, ensuring my profile would be subtly visible in her line of sight later. To enhance the emotional value. Maybe it would make her momentarily confused, wonder if her golden boy had truly returned. That's how you build client loyalty. I'm such a genius. Wait a minute. Ethan Cole is back. What the hell am I still practicing for? Ugh, damn this cursed professional dedication of mine. The door suddenly pushed open. I looked up. Another person was reflected in the mirror. Ethan Cole himself. Crap. Wardrobe clash. No, wait, person clash. He leaned against the sink, his gaze landing on my face, a playful smirk on his lips. So, you're the stand-in? Not a bad imitation. He flicked his bangs. You actually do look a bit like me. Impressive. Indeed, Mr. Cole. You're finally back. This understudy can finally take a bow. Ms. Vance can now enjoy the performance of the leading man. I smiled back, flushed the urinal, and grabbed a paper towel to dry my hands. Ethan looked taken aback. He probably didn't expect such a sincere reply. That mole looks really fake. I don't like it. Ethan pointed to the replicated mole on the back of my neck, then reached out to rub it. Mr. Cole, my handover isn't complete yet. Doing that will compromise my work product. I smiled and quickly took half a step back. No way I was letting him rub it off before I got my final paycheck. Too slow, though. The waterproof adhesive patch was already half dislodged. Damn, I'd spent a lot of time perfecting that signature mole. Mr. Cole, you have a lipstick mark there. I pointed to his collar. Ms. Vance might not appreciate seeing that. Women, they're sensitive about these things. His expression shifted slightly. He hurriedly checked his collar. Just some colleagues fooling around. Honestly, I took the opportunity to slip past him. This Ethan Cole, supposed to be back in 3 days, had learned to spring surprises on Eleanor. That was a new skill, not in my imitation files. I should jot that down later. Wait, the contract's almost up. Why the hell would I jot anything down? The ballroom lights dimmed. The MC announced the start of the dancing. According to the original plan, I was supposed to accompany Eleanor for the opening dance as Ethan Cole. But now, the genuine article was standing right beside her. Surely, I wouldn't be needed. I retreated into the shadows, pulling out a cleansing wipe to completely remove the disguise from the back of my neck. A low gasp came from the center of the dance floor. A fresh scuff mark had appeared on Eleanor Vance's expensive high-heeled shoe. Compliments of Ethan Cole. Oh, so Prince Charming trips up sometimes, too. As I was leaving, I ran into Eleanor in the hallway corridor. She stared at my now bare nape, her voice a little hoarse. You did all this deliberately? Professional necessity. Of course, I aim for perfection, I said, pulling out a new waterproof patch. Still need me to put this back on? Though now that Mr. Cole is back, I don't think it's necessary. She glanced at me without replying. The silence was making me awkward. She suddenly said, Ethan's sudden return. I didn't expect it either. No problem. I'm not easily embarrassed. I can continue to provide services until the contract officially ends. Of course, if you two feel it's inappropriate, we can terminate early. I won't charge a penalty, I said with a cheerful grin. Eleanor looked flustered. Then, from a distance, Ethan's voice called for her. She glanced at me one last time and left. Hey, what exactly do you mean? Are we terminating early or not? You gotta make it clear. I opened the countdown app on my phone. Below the date, originally marked contract termination, a new line of small text had appeared. Estimated survival period for Golden Boy stand-in. Less than or equal to 72 hours. Whatever. Only 3 days left anyway. Back at my apartment, I stripped off all the disguises and took a hot shower. From the fridge, I grabbed a can of beer, my actual preferred taste, cheap, bitter, with a sharp sting of carbonation. Outside, the city lights flickered. 3 more days, and my stand-in contract would be up. 3 days later. Ms. Vance, the contract has expired. Can we settle the final payment? Usual place? I texted Eleanor. Okay. A few minutes later, Eleanor replied, concise as ever. I booked a table at Eleanor's favorite upscale restaurant. Today's main objectives: terminate the contract and collect the final payment. I double-checked the contents of my messenger bag. The stand-in service termination confirmation document, a summary of service record from the past 3 years, and an encrypted USB drive. Professional ethics prevented me from proactively leaking client information, but a little risk hedging was always prudent. If Ms. High and Mighty decided to get difficult and try to stiff me on the final payment, these would be my bargaining chips. Eleanor was over 10 minutes late. This was highly unusual. In 3 years, she'd never been more than 5 minutes off for our meetings. When she arrived, she was wearing a deep red dress I'd never seen before, and her earrings were the pair Ethan Cole had given her years ago. I pushed the documents towards her. Ms. Vance, according to the contract, the service terminates on the day the original returns. Of course, we'll overlook these past 3 days. Here are the service details for the last 36 months. Please review. She didn't look at the documents. Instead, her gaze fixed on my left wrist, where a faint burn scar remained from 3 months ago when she'd angrily knocked over a cup of coffee. I recall you saying a stand-in shouldn't leave personal marks, she said, her eyes still on my scar. Which is why I've included the medical expenses under work-related injury surcharge, I replied, flipping to the 3rd page of the invoice. Totaling $3,800. I've given you a 20% discount. The corner of her mouth twitched. I then handed her another document. These are some of Mr. Cole's behavioral habits. You might find them useful. It was the Ethan Cole Advisory, revised edition. Mango allergy severity updated from skin rash to throat swelling, per last Christmas Eve ER visit record. Added. Dislikes being called by his English name. See email screenshot from 2021. Corrected. Preferred shower gel brand. Discontinued. See Appendix 3 for alternatives. Eleanor's fingertips paused on the page. Suddenly she asked, How did you know all this? Professional dedication, of course. As a stand-in, one must thoroughly understand the original. But I don't need it anymore, so it's yours. She seemed to ponder for a long time, as if wrestling with something. Suddenly, a black card slid across the table towards me. Renew for another year, she said, her voice soft, but each word clear. Salary increased by 10%. If you have other conditions, you can name them. Ms. Vance, according to Article 3 of the Stand-in Industry Code of Professional Ethics, one must not provide services concurrently with the original. I pushed the black card back. Besides, I paused deliberately, looking past her shoulder. Ethan Cole was striding towards them. Your genuine article has arrived. Eleanor, what are you doing here? Ethan wrapped his arm around her waist. I've been looking all over for you. I stood up at the opportune moment, offering a pen. Ms. Vance, the signature page is the last one. Eleanor stared at me, her expression complicated. Ethan leaned over to look at the document. What's this? A service contract? Yes, I said with a smile. A stand-in service termination confirmation. He raised an eyebrow at the amount, then chuckled. Your line of work is quite professional. But as he straightened up, he suddenly started coughing violently. My right hand moved faster than my brain. 3 fingers precisely pressed below his shoulder blade, applying even upward pressure, while my other hand was already reaching for the inhaler in my pocket. The air froze. Eleanor's eyes widened. Ethan's cough caught in his throat. Damn it. This was the emergency maneuver I'd practiced hundreds of times for whenever Eleanor had a coughing fit after a hangover. Good service awareness, Ethan said, straightening up and giving me a meaningful look. Eleanor, you have a knack for hiring. Eleanor's face darkened. She finally signed, but with such force that she nearly tore the paper. I carefully collected the documents, a joyful leap in my heart. Freedom at last. As soon as the payment cleared, I was flying off to the coast, a vacation in the Florida Keys. Before leaving, I did one last check on my mental checklist on my phone. Maintain professional image in front of the original check. Ensure penalty fee, final payment. Receive check. Eliminate residual personal habits. That backpatting thing, minus 10 points. Suddenly, a new message popped up. Chloe Davis, new boss tomorrow, 10 a.m., City Library for our meeting. Okay, boss. Sigh. My Florida Keys would have to wait a little longer. I switched off the screen and tossed the fancy cologne I'd used for Eleanor into the trash. Final stand-in rule. Always make an elegant exit before the client realizes their dependence. That evening, as I was rummaging through my closet wondering what to wear the next day, my phone buzzed. A message from a new client. Can you wear a gray hoodie tomorrow? If the left sleeve has an ink stain, even better. I scratched my head and unearthed an old hoodie from my college days from the depths of my closet. What a coincidence. It actually had a blue ink stain on the sleeve. These rich folks have some really specific taste these days, I muttered, tossing the hoodie into the washing machine, replicating even these tiny details. The next day, at the library, when Chloe Davis arrived, I was engrossed in summarizing my stand-in experiences, so without looking up, I set out habit, by appointment only. Please fill out the form first. But I've already filled it out. A cool female voice made my fingers pause. I looked up. Standing at the entrance was a woman in a beige trench coat, with long, flowing hair and delicate features. It was Chloe Davis. Oh, my apologies, Ms. Davis. I thought I was in my workshop. Force of habit, I said awkwardly. Understandable. Shows you're professional. Let's look at the contract requirements first. Chloe smiled, pushing a contract towards me. Assignment. Portray the ideal man in her heart. I opened the file and froze. Detailed requirements. Wear a gray hooded sweatshirt. A blue ink stain on the left cuff is acceptable. Frequently reads at the library. Favorites include The Little Prince and Walden. When pleased while reading, rapidly taps the tabletop with both index fingers 10+ times. On weekends, rides a bicycle to places outside the city like Dragon Creek, Willow Ridge Park, etc. Additional clause. Party B is permitted to revert to being Jake Ryan during non-service hours. This description, apart from the exact number of finger taps, which I couldn't recall, why did the rest sound increasingly like me? I loved cycling in my student days. I looked up, tentatively asking this. Ideal man of yours. Did he used to attend Northwood High or State University? Chloe smiled. That's none of your concern. Just follow the requirements in the file. I chuckled inwardly. This gig was going to be a piece of cake. 70 to 80% similar to myself. Playing myself couldn't be easier, right? It really was like I was born to be a stand-in. Either my looks matched someone's old flame, or my habits did. Perhaps this was the real reason Chloe Davis hired me. Back in my studio, I hummed a tune as I made a cup of coffee, then casually flipped through Chloe Davis's contract details again. Every afternoon at 3 p.m., City Library. Read The Little Prince for 1 hour. Every Saturday, a company for lemon mint tea. Temperature around 176 degrees F, 80 degrees Celsius. The more I read, the more absurd it seemed. This wasn't a stand-in service. These were basically my daily habits. Looks like this, Ms. Davis's dream guy is an old classmate of mine. I muse aloud. Even the details are so similar. Looking at the file, the more I thought about it, the funnier it became. Being Eleanor's stand-in because I looked like Ethan Cole. Being Chloe's stand-in because my habits resembled her ideal man's. Guess I was destined to make a living as a stand-in. I shook my head self-deprecatingly. Even playing myself can make money. I flipped open Chloe's contract, preparing for the next day's schedule, and suddenly realized all the appointed locations were places I frequented during my student days. All the behavioral details were my own unconscious little quirks. This was beyond coincidence. It was like the universe was hand-delivering me a paycheck. Meanwhile, on the top floor of Vance Tower, Jake Ryan took a new client. Eleanor Vance stared at the investigation report her assistant handed her, her fingertips turning white as she gripped it. Yes, Ms. Vance, the assistant said cautiously. The client is Chloe Davis, daughter of the Davis Corporation chairman. Eleanor let out a cold laugh, grabbed a blank check from her desk, and tore it in half with a sharp rip. Find out, her voice was icy, who Chloe Davis's ideal man really is. The assistant bowed his head and retreated. Eleanor's gaze fell on the fiddle-leaf fig in the corner of her office. The once lush plant was starting to turn yellow. She stared at the wilting leaves, suddenly realizing, for the past 3 years, that plant had never withered. She reached out and touched the soil. It was dry. Someone had been regularly tending to it. At their usual French restaurant, the waiter presented silver cutlery. The moment Eleanor's fingertips touched the knife, her brow furrowed. The angle is wrong. The manager apologized profusely. Ms. Vance, we've always said it this way. She said nothing, merely remembering how, whenever she dined with Jake Ryan, the cutlery would always be precisely angled to fit her grip most comfortably. And now, Ethan Cole sat opposite her, carelessly folding his napkin into a messy ball. "What are you daydreaming about?" he asked. Eleanor looked down and noticed 2 ice cubes floating in her coffee. She suddenly remembered Jake, knew she liked 3 ice cubes in her coffee, knew she was lactose intolerant, and would quietly swap out her latte for an alternative. He even accurately predicted her premenstrual irritability. And now Ethan was pouring milk into her coffee, completely oblivious to her expression. "Nothing," she replied. The path she'd chosen, she'd have to walk it, even if on her knees. "I arrive at the city library at 3 p.m. sharp, as per Chloe Davis's contract. Location, 3rd table by the window. Book, The Little Prince, 2015 translated edition. Habit, lightly twirl the corner of the page with my ring finger when turning." The more I performed these actions, the stranger it felt, as if I were replaying things I'd done before. I couldn't help but ask Chloe, "This ideal man of yours, does he also happen to like lemon and mint in his tea?" Chloe sipped her tea, a slight smile playing on her lips. And he prefers it brewed at over 176 degree F. I was stunned. That was the exact temperature I used for brewing tea in high school, because I'd once read in a magazine that this temperature best released the mint aroma. Only a few people, like my roommates, knew this. Of course, back then, lacking the proper equipment, it was more of a theoretical preference. Who carries a thermometer around? But Chloe's dream guy apparently could, actually controlling the temperature. Even so, it was too much of a coincidence. So coincidental, it was a little unnerving. Could Chloe Davis's ideal man actually be one of my old roommates? I resisted the urge to ask. I took a sip of my tea and discussed the ending of The Little Prince with Chloe. "So the rose and the fox are, essentially, both lonely," Chloe said. But the Little Prince finally understood. I interjected, almost by reflex, "What is essential is invisible to the eye." Those were my own words, not part of the act. Torrential rain hammered against the glass curtain wall of Vance Tower. Eleanor Vance stared at the merger proposal documents Ethan Cole had royally screwed up, the angry voice of their business partner still echoing in her ears from the earlier call. "Ms. Vance, is this your proposal? You can't even get a simple financial statement, right? If this is your attitude, then let's just forget about collaborating." The line had gone dead. After giving her assistant, Chris, a few instructions, Eleanor grabbed her coat and rushed into the elevator. She had to go salvage the deal. But in the first-floor lobby, she unexpectedly saw Ethan Cole. Ethan hadn't noticed her. He was lounging on a leather sofa in the break room, phone to his ear, chuckling, making 7 figures as a stand-in. If I'd known, I would have applied for that gig myself. Eleanor's brow furrowed. A gust of wind blew rain in, dampening the ends of her hair. She'd forgotten her umbrella. After a moment, she walked towards the corner of the stairwell, remembering how, for the past few years, a black, long-handled umbrella would always appear there on rainy days. Not this time. On a strange impulse, she pushed open the fire escape door and felt behind a storage cabinet, finding a hidden compartment. Inside were 5 unopened umbrellas, each with a label printed with a date, for every rainy season in the coming months. Tears welled in Eleanor's eyes. She grabbed an umbrella and rushed out. That night, 1:00 a.m., the whiskey bottle was half empty. The partners demanded a new proposal within a day, or the deal was off. An impossible task. Eleanor curled up on the sofa. Her phone screen lit up and dimmed repeatedly. Finally, she dialed that familiar number. "Hello, you've reached a voicemail of former stand-in, Jake Ryan." A mechanical female voice, gentle yet piercing. "For contract renewal, please press 1. For after-sales inquiries, please press 2. For emotional reconciliation services, please hang up." She slammed the phone down, throwing it onto the sofa. The force made it bounce off and land on the floor. A flash of lightning outside illuminated the coffee table, where the rain-soaked document lay, the Ethan Cole advisory Jake had given her. On the last page, a small line was written in pencil. "Key M&A data in Appendix 7. Might be useful. After all, your golden boy isn't great with numbers." Barefoot, Eleanor picked up the phone with its cracked screen. She opened Jake's WhatsApp messages. There was an unread voice note. "Umbrellas in the fire escape stairwell. Hangover remedy in the 3rd drawer. M&A backup plan in your email drafts. Wishing you all the best in achieving your desires. Tears streamed down Eleanor's face again. Had she made the right choice? Chloe Davis's luxurious penthouse apartment boasted a grand piano. This was unusual. She'd never mentioned anything music-related in her stand-in requirements list. I stood before the piano, my fingertips hovering over the keys, hesitating. "Play something?" she asked, leaning against the doorframe, a mug of coffee in her hand. It was my preferred brand of cheap instant coffee. "It's not in the contract. Just because it's not written doesn't mean you can't play." "What if I just want to hear it?" she said, putting down her coffee. "All right, boss. Happy to oblige." I sat down, my fingers touching the keys. Muscle memory from my old college band automatically kicked in. A rousing rendition of Exodus filled the room. When I finished, Chloe applauded. "Very good. You have talent." I smiled in thanks. "Eleanor Vance is investigating me," Chloe said suddenly. "Investigating you for what?" I asked, curious. "Who your new employer is, of course," she said, walking over to me. This morning, she had someone hack into my online purchase history, trying to find any spending connected to you. I chuckled. "Find anything? A bunch of basketball game tickets and takeout discount coupons." She straightened my shirt collar. "Oh, and one birthday gift order for a Jake Ryan for 5 years ago." My jaw dropped as I stared at her. "Just kidding." She playfully poked my forehead with her index finger. "You're no fun to tease." Eleanor Vance stared at the mango sorbet on the restaurant table. Ethan Cole was casually scooping a spoonful into his mouth. No adverse reaction whatsoever. "Aren't you allergic to mangoes?" Eleanor asked, puzzled. Ethan paused, then smiled nonchalantly. "Oh, I got over that. You could just get over an allergy like that." A chill ran down Eleanor's spine. She remembered the advisory Jake had given her. She stood up and walked out of the restaurant without a word. "Eleanor, where are you going?" Ethan called after her. When Eleanor kicked open the door to Jake Ryan's old apartment, the first thing she saw was a canary yellow sticky note on the refrigerator, an OV. 28/2023. Heavy rain. M&A deal failed. Note, first time she didn't call me by the wrong name. Want bubble tea tomorrow? 30% sugar. Below, it was a clumsily drawn little fox. Her gaze shifted downwards. On the coffee table, a file labeled stand-in career transition plan lay open. Draped over the sofa was a woman's beige trench coat. In the trash can, a discarded coffee cup bore a lipstick stain. There were no traces of her here anymore. 2 a.m. Eleanor curled up in bed, fingers trembling as she pressed a speed dial key. "Hello, the stand-in you have dialed is currently unavailable." That familiar voice came from the receiver. "Please transfer payment and leave a message, or select the express wake-up service." She stared blankly at the phone, suddenly realizing this was Jake Ryan's own custom-recorded voicemail. Even his rejections were professional. Chloe Davis's apartment. I was organizing my stand-in work files when a falling photo album hit me on the head. Ouch. Do your photo albums usually stage sneak attacks? I rubbed my head, picked it up, and idly flipped it open, then froze. University Photography Club Portfolio. The first page prominently displayed my university ID photo, that awful one where I looked like a wanted criminal. Flipping further, it was all photos of me under a cherry blossom tree, adjusting my camera lens, April 3rd, 2016. Me frowning while developing film in the darkroom, November 15th, 2017. Me covered in confetti after winning an award, May 21st, 2018. In the bottom right corner of each photo, a small J for Jake was penciled in. Next to every photo were dense, handwritten notes. March 12th, he wore the gray hoodie. Left sleeve had an ink stain. May 8th, he purses his lips slightly when reading the little prints. Note, taps the desk 3 times with his right hand when thinking. My legs went weak, and I sank to the floor. This is exactly the ideal man persona I'm playing right now, isn't it? Chloe Davis's ideal man was me. Meanwhile, Eleanor Vance's assistant handed her a file, speaking cautiously. "Mr. Ryan's new employer, Ms. Chloe Davis." She and Mr. Ryan were high school classmates. She started collecting photos of Jake Ryan back in 2016. The file included a faded photograph, Jake Ryan in his school uniform, playing basketball on the field. In the corner of the photo, Chloe Davis's gaze was locked firmly on him. The information suggests that Ms. Davis has likely had a crush on Mr. Ryan for a long time. Mr. Ryan is her ideal man. Eleanor felt a chill creep through her, as if something incredibly important was about to be lost forever. So, in this whole stand-in game, she was the only one genuinely looking for a substitute. Explain this. I slapped the photo album down on the coffee table with a thud. Chloe's mug crashed onto the rug. her face flushing crimson. I can prevaricate. Explain. Her words tumbled out, thoughts jumbled, fingers unconsciously twisting the hem of her shirt. These are just market research materials. All right, market research materials. To research how much I resemble. I held up a photo. My hoodie sleeve's ink stain was circled in highlighter, identical to the feature she currently required me to portray. Chloe was caught. Her eyelashes fluttered rapidly. Suddenly, as if throwing caution to the wind, she lifted her head. Okay, I admit it. I paid you $10,000 a month just to hire you to be yourself. Why would you do that? I frowned. She clenched the hem of her shirt again, her voice barely a whisper. I never thought you'd find out. Then, why? I chose my words carefully. Do this to me. Because, she took a deep breath, because that day at the campus deli, the sandwich you made me. You remembered no onions and slipped in an extra slice of provolone. I shook my phone, displaying a new order notification. And you not only remembered, but you gave me extra cheese. Her voice grew softer. No one ever remembered what I liked. The room fell silent, save for the faint hum of the air conditioner. I stared at her, then suddenly chuckled. So, you're in love with the guy who gives you extra provolone? She frowned. It's not about the provolone. Then what is it? It's you dead tired from a night shift, still remembering to hand a warm drink to a student caught in the rain. Her words quickened, as if a dam had broken. It's you, working until dawn, still bothering to pick up a dropped book for a stranger in the library. It's you even when... She stopped abruptly, her eyes welling up. It's me, even when what? I asked gently. It's you, even when you're so good. Her voice trailed off. And you never believe you deserve to be remembered. I was silent. It seemed she wasn't in love with me. She was in love with the me who shimmered in her memories, burnished by a nostalgic filter. The gentle, resilient Jake Ryan who always extended a hand to strangers. But the real me? Chloe, I began slowly. You're looking at me through some seriously rose-colored glasses. She looked up. What do you mean? The person you like might just be an idealized version of me. This filtered version. Even I can't live up to that because the real me maybe isn't as good as you think. I finished a wry twist to my lips. I'd get grumpy with customers when I was exhausted. I'd prioritize selling the almost expired items first and even deliberately slow down on a rainy day so that girl who always came to buy sandwiches could catch up. She interrupted, her gaze unwavering. I know you're not a saint, Jake Ryan. Her words jolted a memory. The girl with the high ponytail who always seemed to be chasing after me to buy a sandwich. Then what is it you like about me? Everything. She looked directly at me. The good, the bad, the messy, the trying too hard. All of it. Do you know how stressed I've been these past few days? Then, gathering courage, she started counting on her fingers. I had to casually bring up your college habits, carefully orchestrate coincidences to get you to wear that old hoodie. Her voice dwindled, and I had to stop myself from telling you that the way you hum off-key when you're drunk is exactly the same as it used to be. I looked at the tips of her ears, now a charming shade of pink, and suddenly laughed. So, in your mind, I've always been this perfect, idealized figure. No way, she huffed, pulling out her phone and scrolling through her photo gallery. Look at this one. You totally wiped out at the sophomore year sports meet. And this one, you got chewed out by the cafeteria lady for wasting food. I leaned closer to look at the screen and froze. She'd even treasured photos of my most embarrassing moments. The sycamore trees outside rustled in the wind. Her voice grew more animated. I've watched you for 10 years, Jake Ryan. You think I'm looking through a filter? I'm looking at this. Her hand pressed against my heart. This hopelessly sincere goofball. My God, her hand was soft. While organizing her father's study, a photograph slipped out from an old album for Eleanor Vance. A high school summer camp group photo. The sunlight was harsh, the crowd bustling, but her gaze was suddenly drawn to a figure in the corner of the picture. A teenage Jake Ryan, half crouching, handing a water bottle to her, who was slumped over from heat stroke. Ethan Cole was standing far off in the shade, not even looking in her direction. Jake Ryan, what was he doing at my summer camp? She trembled all over. A distant memory surfaced. That day, she had a 102-degree fever. Her vision was blurry, but she remembered someone handing her cool water and saying, "Drink slowly." He placed a damp towel on her forehead and said, "I'll go get a counselor." Delirious, she'd looked at the hazy figure and managed a thank you. She had always thought it was Ethan. She remembered Ethan helping her when she stumbled on the first day back at school. "Is your fever still not completely gone?" he'd asked. She nodded numbly, looking at Ethan, whose image increasingly matched her hazy memory. From then on, she'd had eyes for no one else. What she hadn't known was that the boy who had truly helped her had already been standing at the corner of the hallway, idly playing with the empty water bottle before walking away. 10 years of misunderstanding. A case of mistaken identity. Her hand shaking, she picked up the phone and called her assistant. "Chris, there's something I need you to look into for me." Chloe Davis dragged me down a hallway and pushed open an attic door. The entire wall was plastered with photographs, all of me. My hair sticking up when I've fallen asleep in the library, the Band-Aid on my knee after a fall during a basketball game, even a screenshot of my thesis defense PowerPoint presentation. In the very center, a piece of paper was tied with red string. March 14th, 2016. He said, "Excuse me. It was our 7th conversation this semester." "Understand now?" she said, looking at me. "I hired you as a stand-in because my ideal man was always you. That girl who always came to buy food, the one with the high ponytail, that was you?" I asked suddenly. "Ah." She looked a little flustered. "Yes, it was me." "Did you often go to eat right before your evening classes started?" I asked. "You?" She asked, surprised. "How did you know?" "It was too crowded right after school let out. I hated the crush." I fell silent. It really was her. In high school, I'd had 11 chance encounters with a girl, 6 of them in the cafeteria. The slim girl with the high ponytail was my type. I developed a crush on her and even inadvertently found out she was in class 13. Those repeated encounters sparked a strange feeling in me, something I couldn't quite describe. I remembered it clearly. One time, I timed my rush to the 3rd-floor cafeteria perfectly, only to bump into her coming down the stairs in her school uniform. We were the only two on the staircase. The sudden encounter, our eyes meeting for a long moment before she looked away and continued down. I slowly went up. Time felt both fast and slow then. Unfortunately, the high school me was timid, unsure of her feelings, and focused solely on getting into college. After those 11 encounters, we lost touch. I never expected to see her again in college. Otherwise, why else would I have given her that extra slice of provolone? I'd always thought my crush was one-sided. Turns out it wasn't. People change a lot as they grow up, and the Chloe Davis who had matured and entered the working world, I genuinely hadn't recognized her. Thinking back now, she did bear a striking resemblance to the ponytail girl from my memories. I looked down at the photo of my 19-year-old self, young, tired, sleeping soundly, and unguarded. The me of today had long since learned to maintain a perfect mask in front of anyone. Except her. "Chloe," I finally said, "let's go on a proper date." She froze. "What?" Not a stand-in service, not role-playing. I reached out and gently wiped away the tear that hadn't quite fallen from the corner of her eye. "Just you and me. A meal with no surveillance, no records, no imitating Jake Ryan." Her breath hitched. Then, slowly, a smile spread across her lips. "Okay, let me just pick up this mug first." I could clearly sense her nervousness. Only then did I notice the writing behind the fallen mug. "For ZXJ, who stays up late. Drink less coffee." ZXJ were the pinyin initials of my Chinese name. Her hand, reaching for the mug, paused. The tips of her ears turned red again, visibly. "This is," I asked, surprised. "The freebie mug that went missing from the convenience store where I worked in college." "It wasn't missing," she said, staring at the bottom of the mug. "It was taken by me." Later that evening, as we were saying goodbye, she suddenly called out, "Jake Ryan." This time, she wiggled her phone. "Can I take your picture openly?" I smiled. "Be my guest." After all, from now on, I was no longer anyone's stand-in. Not even my own. Deep into the night, in Eleanor Vance's apartment, her assistant Chris handed her the information the private investigator had dug up. It was the complete records from that summer camp years ago. It was a miracle the PI had even found them after all this time. And in the log of emergency incidents at the camp, the situation was clearly documented. Student Jake Ryan took decisive emergency action. Was awarded for outstanding conduct. The following day, student Eleanor Vance. Eleanor collapsed. She had cherished his image in her heart for 10 years, and he had been right in front of her, yet she had treated him like an imposter. For our first official date, I chose a small, classic hot dog stand tucked away in a back alley. "Are you sure this is the place?" Chloe asked, standing under the greasy plastic sign. "Yep, the one I worked at in college closed down. This one tastes the most similar." I lifted the plastic flap curtain, and a wave of heat mixed with the aroma of grilling onions and franks hit us. "Scared?" She squinted, then grabbed my arm and pulled me down slightly. "Scared you'll complain about me taking too many pictures later." When her phone camera focused on me, I instinctively tilted my head, an occupational hazard. 3 years as a stand-in had conditioned me to find the best angle reflexively. "Don't move." Her fingertip poked my forehead. "Just that expression." The one when your eyes lit up when you smelled the food. The shutter clicked. I belatedly realized she was photographing the real me. When the owner, a stout woman, brought over our hot dogs with extra chili, her serving spoon suddenly clattered to the ground. "Jakey, is that really you?" she exclaimed in a thick city accent. The kid who always used to sneak extra onions back in the day. Chloe's fore paused midair. "Onions? Oh yeah," he'd tell customers no onions, then squat in the back munching on them himself. I quickly grabbed a pickle spear and popped it into the owner's mouth. "Ma'am, you must be mistaken." Chloe propped her chin on her hand, watching me, her eyelashes damp from the steam. "Jake Ryan, how many more surprises do you have that I don't know about?" Like, I wiped a smudge of ketchup from the corner of her mouth. I actually hate turtlenecks. I only wore them back then because the AC in that convenience store was always blasting. She stared for a moment, then burst out laughing. She laughed until her shoulders shook, laughed until tears welled up in her eyes. "And for another, you were in class 13 in high school. Like to eat in the third-floor cafeteria, and the extra provolone I gave you? Totally intentional," I said, looking her straight in the eyes with sincerity. Her eyes widened. I then laid out everything from high school. "So I liked you first." She was stunned. "The person who always ate later than me, that was you from 6th-period lunch? And the person who rushed up to the 3rd floor, then suddenly slowed down that day, that was you too." I was stunned as well. Next, we exchanged many things we hadn't known about each other. Finally, we both burst out laughing again, laughing until our stomachs hurt, laughing until tears streamed down our faces. See, after all the twists and turns, fate finally gave us another chance. Maybe this is what they call good things come to those who wait. Eleanor Vance slammed the photos and documents down in front of Ethan Cole. "You liar. You deceived me for 10 years. He glanced at them, flicked one of the photos, and actually smirked. "Yeah, so what? You were the one who insisted on believing it was me. You only loved the shadow you fantasized about. You were never really allergic, were you?" Eleanor demanded. Ethan shrugged. "Of course not. But isn't that fragile, sensitive artist act exactly what you fell for?" "I finally get it," Eleanor said, her voice trembling. "You never loved me, or Jake Ryan. You loved your fantasy of a perfect me. And now, it's a perfect Jake Ryan. Get out." Ethan's words stung Eleanor. She couldn't maintain her composure any longer and burst into tears. It started raining as we left the hot dog stand. Chloe's high heel got stuck in a storm drain grate. I knelt to help her pull it out, and as I looked up, I saw them across the street. Eleanor Vance's Bentley, parked silently, window half down, her gaze fixed on me with a strange expression. "Should we say hello?" Chloe asked, steadying herself on my shoulder. I shook my head, taking off my jacket and draping it over her head. "Come on, the movie's about to start." Behind us, an engine roared aggressively. The movie theater was empty. Chloe had booked a private midnight screening. They were showing Interstellar, the very movie from that old ticket stub that had fallen out. When the protagonist was traveling through time to send messages to his daughter, she suddenly leaned closer. "Actually, I was sitting right next to you that day. I asked you if the main character would be able to get back to his daughter, and you told me." She mimicked my tone from back then. "Theoretically, yes, but the father will be younger than the daughter." And you were right. The blue light from the screen illuminated her face. I suddenly noticed a very faint dimple on her left cheek. "Chloe," I laced my fingers through hers. "In all these years, was there ever a moment when you—" On screen, a black hole devoured stars. Her breath tickled my ear. Every single second. It was nearly dawn when the movie ended. The surveillance camera at the alley entrance swiveled, following our movements. Chloe suddenly pushed me into the shadow of a fire hydrant. "Don't move." She stood on her tiptoes and kissed me, the taste of mint mixed with the damp air. "There's a camera, you know," I said, my forehead against hers. Not afraid. She licked a raindrop from my lip. I specifically picked a blind spot. When I walked her to her apartment door, she suddenly pressed her hand over mine as I reached for my keys. "Jake Ryan. Tomorrow." The tips of her ears turned red. "Can I come over to your apartment to see that copy of The Complete Far Side? Just strictly to read the book. The book's on the nightstand, but I can't guarantee you'll strictly make it to the last page." She playfully kicked my shin and turned to run, but then paused at the bend in the staircase and looked back. "Oh, by the way, back then," she asked with a grin, "did you really sell almost expired sandwiches to students?" I drew out my reply. "You geas, Jake Ryan. Even if I did, it's fine. Almost expired isn't actually expired," Chloe said, laughing. We both burst into laughter. Back home, I sent Chloe a voice message. "Don't have coffee tomorrow morning. I'll make you milk tea." I drew the curtains and placed that old joke book on a nightstand. On page 38, at the folded corner, was tucked a convenience store receipt, December 24th, 2018. One hot cocoa, for him working the night shift. Hope he has good dreams tonight. 10 minutes past midnight, the doorbell rang. I opened my eyes, didn't turn on the light, and peered through the peephole. Eleanor Vance stood in the hallway, holding a bottle of red wine and 2 wine glasses. Beneath her tailored blazer, she wore that familiar silk nightgown. Open up. Her voice, husky and slightly slurred, came through the door. I know you're not asleep. I hesitated for a moment, then unlocked the door. She walked straight in, her heels clacking sharply on the hardwood floor. This is a 63 law fight. She placed a bottle on the coffee table. You always said you wanted to try it. Ms. Vance, our contract is over, I stated. Is it? She turned to look at me, her eyes sharp. Then why is Chloe Davis's phone full of your pictures? She pulled out her phone, the screen displaying Chloe's Instagram feed. A photo from the movie theater, me with my arm around her waist, the movie poster in the background. Caption, first official date. You're dating her? Eleanor's voice was tight, with suppressed anger. Jake Ryan, I hired you as a stand-in, not to seduce my competitor. I laughed. Ms. Vance, have you forgotten? I'm currently Chloe Davis's exclusive stand-in. Exclusive? She sneered. How much is she paying you? I'll double it. It's not about the money. Then what is it? I walked to the window and pulled back the curtains. It's that she remembers I like half a sugar in my coffee, I said softly. It's that she secretly bought me extra hot cocoa 7 years ago. It's that she... Eleanor suddenly smashed one of the wine glasses. Shards scattered near my feet, the red wine spreading across the floor like blood. Do you know what Ethan Cole has said to me most often these past few days since he's been back? Her voice trembled. He complains that I'm becoming more and more like you. I froze. She looked up, something in her eyes I'd never seen before. Jake Ryan, you won. You didn't just become a stand-in, you replaced him. Eleanor suddenly laughed. Isn't it ironic? What? I hired you to play an Ethan Cole who loved me. She stood up and walked towards me. But in the end, I became an Eleanor Vance who loves you. Her lips lunged towards mine, her gaze growing alarmingly intense. I took a step back, gripping her arms. Ms. Vance, you've had too much to drink. Call me Eleanor. She grabbed my wrists, trying to kiss me again. Just this once. The sound of the keypad lock on the front door beeped. Chloe Davis appeared in the doorway, holding a thermos, steam gently rising from its opening. Am I interrupting something? Her gaze went past me to Eleanor. No, you're right on time, I said, flustered. Why did that sentence sound so familiar and so weirdly suggestive? Both women stared at me, their eyes questioning. Male reader. Dude, what are you waiting for? Trying to be some tragic hero. Thankfully, it didn't last long. Eleanor released me, elegantly wiping a tear from the corner of her eye. Ms. Davis, what a coincidence. Not a coincidence. Chloe thrust the thermos into my hands. I'll be coming by at this time every day from now on. The air thickened. Finally, Eleanor moved. She picked up her purse and walked towards the door. As she passed Chloe, she whispered, You think he likes you? He's just accustomed to working diligently under observation. Chloe smiled. That's fine. I want to get used to observing him too. After the door closed, Chloe stared at the broken glass on the floor. She threw that. Yeah. And she brought the wine. Said it was a 63 law fight. She suddenly snatched the thermos back from me. Don't drink it. What if she secretly poisoned it before she left? I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. It wouldn't go that far. Eleanor isn't that crazy, isn't she? Chloe pulled me to the window. Eleanor's car was still parked downstairs. She watched you for 3 years. I've watched her for 7. Chloe's smile was cold. I know better than you just how crazy Ms. Vance can get. An hour later, Chloe was asleep on my sofa, cradling that copy of The Complete Far Side. I gently covered her with a blanket. Saturday morning, I stood downstairs from Chloe's apartment, vigorously wiping down the back seat of a bicycle. A plastic bag hanging from the handlebars held 2 bottles of orange soda, a popular brand from our high school days, 10 years ago. Jake Ryan. Chloe burst out of the building in a light blue sundress, her hair still damp. Where did you dig up this antique? I patted the seat proudly. Rented it from a bike shop near the university campus. You know, bikes with actual passenger seats are hard to find these days. Watching her get on the back, tiptoeing for half a minute trying to reach non-existent pedals, I suppressed a laugh and held the handlebars steady. Ms. Davis, don't tell me you've never ridden on the back of a bicycle before. The passenger doesn't pedal. None of your business. She blushed and playfully punched my shoulder. The wheels rolled over the shadows of sycamore trees. At first, Chloe only dared to pinch the hem of my shirt. But when we hit a downhill slope and the wind picked up, she let out a small ah and wrapped her arms around my waist. Hey, my ears burned. Not so tight. I'm scared. She pressed her face against my back, her voice muffled. Did you give rides to other girls in high school? The wind carried the floral scent of her shampoo. I deliberately slowed down. Sure, I gave a ride to the prettiest girl in the class next door. A sharp pinch in my side. I looked back to see Chloe's pouting face, then laughed and sped across the stone bridge. Kidding. I was buried in books back then. Who had time for anyone else? The campus queens were a college-era development. Dragon Creek was narrower than I remembered. We took off our shoes and sat on the bank, dangling our feet in the cool water. Chloe suddenly pulled a waterproof pouch from her bag. Wait, isn't that my student ID I lost junior year? I stared at the yellowed ID card or pouch. So, you were the one who found it. She winked slyly. I also found your film appreciation class notes in the library, and your meal card in the cafeteria. As I stared in astonishment, her voice grew softer. I'm sorry, I should have returned them to you back then, but I just wanted to have something of yours. It's okay, I said, pressing my index finger gently to her lips. It's all in the past. Sunlight filtered through the delicate curve of her ear, illuminating tiny, soft hairs. We both seemed to remember something at the same time and burst into laughter. On the way back, she hummed, "Hey there, Delilah," from the back seat, terribly off-key. I deliberately swerved the bike from side to side, making her cling to me tightly in mock terror. Jake Ryan. She pinched the soft flesh at my waist. Ride steady. Then promise me one thing. I shouted into the evening breeze. Next Saturday, you'll go somewhere with me. Where? The city library. I felt her body instantly stiffen, then added with a smile, to officially return the eraser you accidentally rolled to my feet all those years ago. The setting sun stretched our shadows long. The bicycle chain creaked, as if humming a love song that spanned a decade. That rainy night, Eleanor Vance cornered me in an alley. Jake Ryan, you remembered every single one of my habits. Her voice was hoarse. Why did you let go so easily? I looked at her calmly. Boss, because it was work. The contract ended. Perhaps next time, make your request earlier. If it weren't for Chloe Davis, she paused. Would you have? Even a little bit. Ms. Vance, you always loved the version of me that resembled Ethan Cole. I pointed to my own face. Not this Jake Ryan who has allergies, gets dark circles, and is woken up in the middle of the night. Chloe's umbrella appeared at the mouth of the alley. Almost instinctively, I hurried towards her, taking the umbrella and tilting it to shield her. No calculation of angles, no adjustment of expression, just a purely natural movement. Eleanor watched us, standing side by side in the rain, and suddenly laughed. A soaking wet check was tossed into a puddle. I wish you happiness. Eleanor Vance turned and walked into the rain. I bent down to pick up the check, but Chloe stepped on it, then stood on her tiptoes and kissed me. Don't pick it up. We don't need her blessing. In the distance, Eleanor Vance removed the Ethan Cole matching watch from her wrist and threw it into a trash can. As the watch clattered into the bin, the engraving on its back was briefly visible. The letter J. The Davis Corporation's anniversary gala was halfway through when a main screen suddenly went black. The next moment, a series of photos flashed across it. Me in my high school uniform, bending down in the hallway to pick up the eraser she'd accidentally dropped. Me in the university library, asleep on the Little Prince, a stubborn cowlick sticking up. Last week, the crooked collar of my shirt as I made coffee in the morning. Finally, the screen switched to a live drone shot, a fleet of drones in the night sky, forming giant letters, "Marry Me." And the camera zoomed in on me, standing below the stage, clutching a POS card reader. The entire hall fell silent, then erupted in deafening cheers and whistles. I walked onto the stage. The card reader beeped and lit up. Ms. Davis, I turned the POS machine towards her, the permanent partner contract. Will you sign? Down payment. One true heart. Monthly installments. For a lifetime. Chloe Davis pulled a black card from her clutch and lightly tapped it on the contactless sensor. This time, I want a 100% commission. The screen flashed a payment successful animation. The receipt that printed from the POS machine read, amount, priceless. Eleanor Vance sat in a corner, watching the couple embrace on stage. She thought about all the little things Jake Ryan had done for her over the years. Unfortunately, she hadn't cherished him. She'd only seen him as a substitute for someone else. Perhaps Chloe Davis was truly the right person for him. She smiled faintly, crumpled the stand-in contract she had prepared, presumably for Jake again, and tossed it in a perfect arc towards the trash can. This time, she didn't miss. Later that night, outside Eleanor Vance's apartment, Ethan Cole stood waiting with a bouquet of roses. She tore up the apology card he offered, the one asking for a reconciliation, and tossed his roses aside. Ethan looked awkward. Eleanor, if you can't forget Jake Ryan, I can actually play the hymn in your heart. After all, my looks and his. Thump. The door closed. From behind the door, Eleanor said softly, "No thanks. I've quit stand-ins. We decided to have our wedding ceremony at the city library. The reception would be at the hotel next door, just a few minutes walk away." The city library was closed to the public that day. A gold-embossed sign stood at the entrance. "Please maintain quiet." The groom says the first time his heart fluttered here, he heard the turning of pages. The guest discovered the sign-in table was a transparent candy jar filled with the eraser shavings Chloe had accidentally rolled towards Jake in high school. The ring pillow was that well-worn copy of The Little Prince, its flyleaf holding a note he'd casually written years ago. When the officiant asked, "Do you take this man/woman?" Jake Ryan instinctively reached for a phantom POS machine, his hand gently pressed down by his laughing bride. After the ceremony, everyone walked to the adjacent hotel. Just then, the concierge delivered package. I opened it. It was the complete summer camp photo album. In the corner of every page, circled in red ink, was Jake Ryan offering water to Eleanor under the shade of a tree. Jake Ryan secretly stuffing sunscreen into her bag at the sports meet. Jake Ryan standing at the very back of the crowd at the graduation ceremony, his gaze nonetheless fixed on her. An attached card bore Eleanor's sharp handwriting. "Thank you for making me see clearly. Love is not obsession." During the reception, Chloe and I made the rounds, toasting our guests. Ethan Cole had somehow managed to mingle with the guests, hoping to snag some top-grade Wagyu beef, but was stopped by security. "Sir, please show your invitation." He actually pointed at me on the stage and yelled, "I'm his love rival." According to the script, there should be a dramatic confrontation about now. "Eleanor Vance, where the hell are you?" According to the short drama playbook, you should be here in a wedding dress to crash the wedding. I'll help you strategize and then Eleanor Vance impulsively marries you, Ethan Cole, right? Then you swindle her money, she sees through you, and finally, you get kicked out with the cash but get away scot-free. As long as you don't go crazy and try to assassinate the male lead, only for Eleanor to take the bullet for him. Right? The people around him stared with disdain. Did he think this was some kind of fictional universe? As if none of us had ever watched a cheesy soap opera or a free web drama. I tossed a peppermint candy towards him from afar. "Security, please call this gentleman a taxi." Unexpectedly, the candy hit Ethan squarely on the forehead. The large screen happened to cut to a drone follow shot at that exact moment, broadcasting his clumsy attempt to catch the candy to the entire room. Why don't you people ever follow the script? Ethan was still shouting as he was escorted away. Our wedding night. Chloe pulled a contract out from under the pillow. Supplementary agreement for the permanent buyout of Jake Ryan stand-in services. Clause 1. 1. Party B, Jake Ryan, commits that, for the rest of his life, he will only activate business mode for Party A, Chloe Davis. I suddenly laughed. "Ms. Davis, you're taking a huge loss on this deal." Her voice was laced with amusement. "That's why I plan to renew it for a lifetime." I took the contract and signed my name, then added a line in small print at the bottom. Note, business mode includes good morning kisses, bedtime stories, and 176 degrees Fahrenheit, 80 degrees Celsius lemon mint tea. Always free of charge.